Hello everyone, how are we all doing? I'm Mark Suxford and welcome to my podcast, People Behind Brands. Brought to you by Making Websites Better. In each episode, I'm joined by an inspirational guest to hear more about their life lessons and how it's shaped them into who they are today. To never miss an episode, subscribe to exclusive content now and follow us on our social media platforms. People Behind Brands, life lessons from the world of business.
Go off, I turn my phone off, I put it in a cupboard, and nobody can contact me.
Yeah.
And that I do for my own mental health, well-being, happiness, but mainly for my children.
So what makes up key components of the business or career you're involved with? Many people might say the product or service offering, or even the financial areas. But what if I said culture? Step forward Matt Phelan from the Happiness Index. Matt is all about creating a thriving culture of growth. His ethos is channeled through his company that helps organisations measure key employment engagement and happiness drivers to power their people's strategy. Matt started his first business in his early 20s and quickly won key accounts from Marks and Spencer's, Ralph Lauren and many more household names. So it's only right we delve deeper into his life lessons from the world of business and find out what makes him who he is today.
It's People Behind Brands podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
Good, yeah. Real pleasure to have you. I think I've met you once before for a mutual friend, Matt Stannard. So it's really good to have you on board. So where can we find you today?
I am in Soho in London. I've just had a few meetings around town, and then I'm in a meeting room to meet you and have this conversation, Mark.
Good, excellent. Well, I appreciate your time. So Matt is all about creating thriving culture of growth. His ethos is channeled through the Happiness Index, which helps organisations measure key employee engagement and happiness drivers to power their people strategy. As a highly successful individual, we touch upon Matthew's life lessons from the world of business as we explore his career and personal challenges along the way. So perhaps you could start by giving us a little bit more context and sum up the Happiness Index, if you wouldn't mind, and how you help brands, and people become better versions of themselves.
Yeah, that's a good deep question, Mark. I suppose principally what we do, if your company's more than 100 people, it can be difficult to know everyone's name, how they're feeling, what makes them tick, and how best to lead that organization.
Yeah.
So on a person-to-person level, lots of businesses talk about emotional intelligence. So what the Happiness Index is an employee engagement and happiness platform. And what that means is before us, there was lots of employee engagement platforms, which measures how your employees think. The Happiness Index does that, but it adds in how someone feels. And once you understand how people feel, the decisions that you make around culture become improved. And then lots of other amazing stuff starts to happen, like better staff retention, attracting more staff, better financial results, lots of stuff that I'm sure we'll get into, Mark. But it's a platform that CEOs and HR directors log in, see how their people feel and improve the culture.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, you must work with quite diverse companies in achieving their goals for this as well.
Yeah, that's the thing I love. I genuinely, some people say they love their job or find your passion or whatever. I just love what we do because you get onto the inside of a company, because a brand is the outside bit, isn't it? It's the bit that you see. But when you get into culture, even twins, I know two twins at my children's school, they're identical twins, but they're different. Their personalities are different. So if identical twins are different, it means we're all different, which means every company's different, every team's different. And you get into it and it's just, it's absolutely fascinating. I don't think I've even answered your question, but...
No, you have. But I mean, doing some initial research ahead of the episode, I noticed that you have come from quite humble beginnings, such as working at Asda on the checkouts and a baggage handler at Harwich International Port. So what gave you the courage to begin your own business ventures?
I think I wouldn't say any courage whatsoever. I think I'm not employable myself. I've tried working for other people and it just doesn't work out for me. The baggage handling job's the best job I've ever had. I loved it. It was so good, absolutely brilliant. But I've always felt that I'd like to do my own thing, and I always speak to other people that lots of people want to start their own business one day. But I generally believe if you've got that like desire in you, and that it's not a thought, it's a feeling. Some people have it in them that they want to do it one day, and unfortunately, that little nagging voice is not going to go away.
Yeah.
So I definitely had that. I don't think every entrepreneur does, because I think some people see other people do it and they go, yeah, I could do that, and that would be cool, or they have a really great career. Like there's loads. I think the average age to start a business is 42.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, lots of people look at like the Zuckerbergs and like the dropouts of university, but the average age is 42. The Colonel started KFC at 62. So I started at 25. But I think it's like anything, everyone finds a different journey to it. But I was always felt like anywhere I worked, I just felt like, oh, they treat you like crap here.
Yeah.
I sort of grew up in a family business, and I saw how my parents treated people.
Yeah.
I didn't see that in the workforce, and I thought maybe there's a different way to do things.
Yeah. So how did that kind of business journey begin? So obviously I mentioned your kind of former professions there, but how did that journey really sort of begin for you?
Yeah. So the weird thing about my career is you mentioned a little bit about it, but I worked with animals before I worked with human beings.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we've got any cat lovers or dog lovers that are listening.
Yeah.
Are you into cats or dogs, Mark?
Yeah, I've got 2 cats. I've recently just got 2 cats. They're about a year old now, so yeah.
And I would argue, again, this is a personal question, how many people are in your household? Is there anyone else in your household?
So there's me and my partner in my house, yeah.
I always argue that animals are better at communicating how they feel than human beings. Because although we have this sophisticated language and brains and all this kind of stuff, your cats will tell you when they're hungry, when they want some attention, and it's very clear. But we are really bad at it. And when I got into the world of work, I just thought, because I'd worked on a farm of animals where that's the scenario, I felt like, who are these people that just don't actually communicate? And I found it so weird. But I was really lucky that I went and I got a job at a company that got acquired by the Guardian newspaper. And they had an amazing culture there, like the sort of type of culture where, even though I never did this, I remember when they onboarded us, they said, no matter who you are in a company, if you've got something that you think we should be covering editorially, you can come to like an editorial meeting. I just thought that was amazing. But then I left because I always felt like I wanted to be like in advertising and marketing. So I got a job at a really cool like media company, which is like well known. But I got there, and you describe it today as toxic masculinity. But at the time, I didn't know what toxic masculinity meant. I've only learned recently what it means. But I got there and I was like, I can't handle this. And on day one, I went to play that night. I went to play 5-a-side football with with one of my friends, and he was like, "Oh, congratulations on the new job." I was like, "I'm quitting." It's the first day, and I was like, "I just can't handle it. Life's too short. I'm going to just do what I do. I've got some skills from a marketing perspective, and I'm just going to get out there and see if anyone wants to work with me." And my friend goes, "Oh, I'll do it with you." And that's how we got it. So I always say our journey started with unhappiness. Yeah. Again, we'll talk about happiness later. I'm not here to preach high happiness. I'm here to say that your emotions are incredibly rich data sources that you shouldn't ignore.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later. But unhappiness is as important as happiness, and you can learn as much. If someone's listening to Mark and I now, you can learn as much from what's making you unhappy as what makes you happy. If you ignore those feelings, you might lose an opportunity to learn something, to grow, to change, to adapt. So yeah, I never look back at that decision with regret. But now I've got like kids and stuff, I look back and think maybe that's a bit reckless. But yeah, I was really happy that I was unhappy in a weird way. Yeah. I think these experiences always lead you into hopefully something better. But it certainly led you to where you are today anyway. But I mean, you began the journey of co-founding your previous business in your early 20s, if I'm right in saying that, a digital marketing agency, 4PS Marketing in 2008. It must have been
a steep learning curve given the 2008 financial crisis at that time, and dealing with everything else in between at a fairly young age. So how did you overcome challenges and build that brand?
I think the first thing is, I just want to talk about resilience a little bit. Like, when tough stuff's happening to you, you build resilience. So if I go back to the farm, so like all my grandparents were Irish immigrants. My mum's from Ireland, came over, did like cleaning jobs. My mum was a cleaner and an au pair. My dad's from Brixton, actually. I see you got a Brixton hat on there.
Yeah.
But long story short, they sort of like built up their own thing. But a couple of like 2 or 3 big things happened when I was growing up. So one thing that like Irish immigrant families were really bad at is like understanding stuff like tax. So when I was younger, 3 things happened all in like a couple of years. There was like the 1987 storms. So my dad had built up, and his dream was to become a farmer. So he basically became a farmer, but like basically all the barns and everything got absolutely wiped out in that storm, but they didn't have insurance to recover it. So that happened. Then I don't know if you're old enough, Mark, to remember. Basically, we had a thing called BSE, which is mad cow disease.
Yeah.
And we also had foot and mouth, which was a bit later on. But like in a weird way, that was like a farm's version of the pandemic that we went through. So even in foot and mouth, we had to like disinfect ourselves going in and out of the farm. So those were things like early things that I saw my parents go through. And point on like tax and stuff like that, they basically had a tax investigation and lost all of their savings. So in a few years of like my earliest memories are like this ridiculous storm, like destroying the farm, my parents losing any money and savings they had, and then all these like things happening that were absolutely like destroying farming. So it's no wonder they struggle to get people to work in farming. It's like the toughest thing. But what was fascinating about those things is it wasn't directly impacting me because I didn't really know what was going on, but you observe your parents go through stuff.
Yeah.
That was the biggest privilege I had, is watching my parents and like learning from them. So that when we started, the reason I shared that story is when we started in 2008, like 3 or 4 months after we started, the financial crisis started, and they were like chucking people out of Lehman Brothers down in the city. So it was like, we finally started our business. We had a first like good couple of months, and then the whole world is going to SHIT. And the thing is, after a situation, no one thinks it's that bad, but at the time you don't know, do you?
No.
Like even now, everyone like looks back at the pandemic like it wasn't that bad, but we were all locked down into our houses, like absolutely in fear. But as time goes on, you sort of like go, oh no, it wasn't too bad, because in the past you didn't die. That's how nostalgia works, isn't it? Like no,
I agree. I think I relate it back to that sort of pandemic time, because we were all sort of closed in, and for me personally, I went through quite a lot of sort of difficult areas, because I was getting made redundant from jobs and things like that, and having to find a job in COVID, having Zoom interviews and stuff like that. It's but that was me. But you look at kind of the key workers that were working at that time as well, and they were literally putting their lives on the line. So it was quite a obviously a very testing time for everyone, really. But so I mean, in terms of coming back to success, really, I mean, in that time working for your previous company, you had the likes of the Marks and Spencer of this world, Ralph Lauren, Gymshark, Nissan, Argos, all of these household names giving you the chance to work your magic in the digital world, and again at a very young age for yourself. So what do you put those successful account wins down to, I suppose?
Well, I think one of the first things we did is we got like advisors to join the company before we even like had grown. And I remember this guy Nick, because we were paranoid at how young we were, because although we owned the company, people didn't realize that we owned the company because we were so young. And we were paranoid about that. And Nick was like, whoa, you got to change this. You got to change this mindset, and you've got to see the fact that you're young as you were offering something unique to these companies. So when that it was just a simple bit of advice from Nick, and I was like, okay, it's a really good point. And it was like, your competitors are going to be, they can't offer this. They can't offer the fact that you're in your early 20s. So then we realized that this was the early days of stuff like Google marketing, social media, Twitter, all this stuff was new. So if you're an established company like those brands that we work with, like Ralph Lauren, Nissan, Hertz, all of these people, you don't know how that stuff works. So if people will come along and show you how that works, they will give you a chance regardless of your age. And that's all that happened. It's a bit like now, like so many companies haven't got a clue what's going on TikTok, but people are on TikTok all the time. Therefore, you need to know, especially if you're in retail, like what's going on with TikTok. Now, I'm not in that world anymore, but that's an area I'd be absolutely quadrupling down on as a service, like taking that to companies to make sure they understand how TikTok works.
Yeah.
And that's what we were doing when things like Google and so on were in their infancy. And then the other thing is, so we turned our age into an advantage thanks to Nick's advice, but also a bit like now where there's uncertainty in the economy. When there's an uncertainty in the economy, all the marbles get chucked up because people go, oh, let's review all these costs. If you're new at that point, you can, because you don't have all the big overheads, you can come in and go, you know what, we can do it like this. We can do it a bit differently to how you've been doing it with that big company or that big agency. We can be flexible. Because the thing is, when you've got nothing, you've got nothing to lose. So we could offer different opportunities. We could be flexible. And all it took Uniqlo in retail, which is like the Japanese fashion retailer, and White & Case in, they were one of the top 10 law firms. We managed to get those two on. But then that's it. Like you're onto the road then. So like once you're doing a good job with someone like Uniqlo, all the other brands want to work with you.
Yeah.
So you got up the retail bit, and then over here, this is our professional services, and that went pop, 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 pop. So we had to keep doing a good job. But the first thing is to just recognize what makes you different and not be afraid of it. Generally, the thing that we thought was our weakness, we turned into our strength.
Yeah.
And even with some people, we actually changed, on our business cards, it said like co-founder, and we realized some people couldn't handle it. It's a bit different now because there's lots of younger people around on social media. Back then it was a bit different. So we actually changed our job titles on our business cards to account director.
Right.
And we never told anyone. Like sometimes people working with us, they didn't know that we owned the company.
Yeah.
Because we also sensed there's some people who weren't ready for that.
Yeah.
But we never said it. We never said we did or we didn't. Yeah. But they just, I was just Matt, the account director. And then like, they'd say to you like 2 years later, I didn't know you owned the company. And I was like, yeah, well, it's not something we didn't feel like we needed to say. So, well, Chris and I look back on that and think that's so weird because that was of its time. Now it's, you see people running companies like that all the time. But back then it was definitely a bit different.
Yeah, no, that's quite interesting how you've done that, how you modeled that. That's good. So the business continued to excel, obviously, but you eventually sold back in 2016 before exiting eventually in 2018. So take us back to that period and your thought process behind that decision.
So with us, we were punching well above our weight. We were winning all of these like global brands. You mentioned a few of them. So I would say like we got to like the Premier League, if you put it in football terms, like domestically in the UK, like I'm sure there's other agencies around at the time, but in terms of an independent agency, we felt like we'd really built this great reputation and lots of brands were coming to us. Now, the next level up from that is like a global level where you have to win like the global brands like Apple.
Yeah.
And to do that and to win those big pitches, you suddenly have to have an operation all around the world. And again, remember this before the pandemic. So people were less comfortable if you're not having an office in a location.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget that. It's different world now. But we realized that we would suddenly need to probably open up 7, 8, 9 offices in key locations, like the classic ones like Sydney, New York, Shanghai, blah, blah, blah. And I would say we didn't have the funds or the confidence that we could do it on that scale. So we decided that it was a good decision to sell to a global business that we could grow globally with them. In hindsight, I think we did have the funds, and I think with the right level of confidence, we could have gone to that next level. But I don't think we had the right. I don't think we had the people around us to encourage us to do that. So I think we took the safer route. In hindsight, maybe we would have gambled a bit more and maybe gone for that global expansion. But who knows? It's easy said.
Yeah, well, you only know what you know at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I mean, while with 4PS marketing, I saw you also set about founding the Happiness Index.
Yeah.
Again, this must have been quite a challenge found in both businesses, but it's clear that people are your passion. So talk to us about this idea and how it's evolved over the years.
Well, when you grow a business, it's kind of an unnatural thing because you're growing something at a rate that's bigger than you can kind of really handle, because in a service business, you don't just have lots of people sitting there not working.
Yeah.
So therefore, when you win a new contract, you need new people, but you can't just like click your fingers and new people arrive. So you're gradually growing, but it's very difficult to grow and hire at the same rate. And through that process, ourselves and our employees struggled, and we realized how tough it was. And there's nothing worse than speaking to one of your team who's struggling, and you know that their work is part of that, and you know they work for you, and you respect them. And the more we looked at it, the more we realized how important culture was. We did everything we could, but it was still not perfect, and no company is perfect. But in that, because we were working on the data of marketing, we realized we were saying, I was saying, we called it personal client agency growth. What that meant is employees are more important than the customer, because our view was if we looked after our employees, they looked after the customers. Customers would be happy and we would grow. But we weren't collecting data on it. So long story short, we built a piece of technology called the Happiness Index to track it. But we still had this journey with 4Ps to go on. So I phoned up a bunch of people and sort of said, look, I've got this idea that we could turn it into another business. And I phoned up a guy called Tony Latta, and we were best men at each other's weddings. And said, we've got no money, but if you quit your job and we'll give you a laptop and a list of people that are interested in the product, we'll give you 1/3 of the business. And we met in I think it was Wetherspoons in Victoria, and all the glamorous places. And he came with like a list of like 40 reasons, objections to why he didn't think it could work. We went through each one of them. And at the end, he was like, yeah, no, I think I could do this. Let me go home and speak to my partner. And then he had this, out of all of us, because we all grew up together, Tony won't mind me saying this, out of everyone, he was on the surface the most successful. Lovely car, lovely house, great salary, working for AXA Insurance, but just not happy in his job. So he chucked it all in and went for it with us. So he got that up and running whilst we sold and exited the business. Which meant when you start a technology company, they are really, really financially draining. They need a lot of money. So we were lucky that we could support it in many different ways, like financially putting money in, but being able to work for free for it and all this kind of stuff. And at this point, I had kids. We all had kids. Anyone who's listening, unless you come from a background where you've got parents who can give you a load of money, which we didn't, it's very difficult to just suddenly quit your job and not work for any money. That's probably why the average age is 41, because it's a lot to do with lots of people. It's really difficult if you've got children to start a business in your 20s and 30s. So we were in that position where we'd been successful once, and then we could reinvest that money into like not taking a salary out at the beginning, and to invest money into like tech development and so on. So Tony got that off the ground, and then after we'd exited in 2018, we took 5 months off. We had 5 months sabbatical, which was so needed. And then we joined the Happiness Index and got on to journey number 2.
Yeah, sounds good. So, yeah, I mean, just going back to your point about brands and businesses of all industries are looking more to, into sort of employee well-being. So, what would you say is your company's unique selling point, and why current or past clients have decided to work with you?
Yeah, I think it's really simple. All of our competitors try and understand how employees think.
Yeah.
So they give an employee engagement platform. It says the employees think this about work. Now, the happiness index tells you how your employees think. We do that as well, but we also go into how you feel. Now, the best way to think of that, Mark, is think of any relationship you've ever been in. That could be work, that could be sibling, that could be parents, it could be romantic, it could be your last job. You may want to leave that relationship. And if I asked you to write down why you want to leave that relationship, you might not be able to write it down. You might not be able to express it with words, but you think that you want to leave that relationship.
Yeah.
And the problem is employee engagement, which is what a lot of the stuff was built on, was all about the think side. But we as human beings are not wholly rational.
Yeah.
We do lots of strange things based on all the different types of our things that are going on in our brain and in our bodies. So we actually show a company how their employees feel. And that's massive, because once you know how people feel, you can start to change and adapt things to create the culture that they want, which means you retain more people, you attract more people, and people do better work.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you don't mind me saying, I think you seem very self-assured in your overall kind of quest, if you like, but also your decision-making process. So where do you think that mentality or mindset actually comes from?
Well, I think that's because we're talking about the past, and that's just a history of what's happened. In terms of the future, definitely not. Who knows? I'm definitely not assured about more than one day ahead. Like, the pandemic has taught us that. So all I really believe in is that if you look after people, they perform better, and we're trying to build a business around that. So I definitely feel sure talking about the past, because I'm just recounting what happened. But when it comes to the future, I crap myself about it every single day.
Yeah, I think there's lots of people out there with that sort of same thought process as well. So, but I mean, many people can learn from your own career experiences. I mean, you become a non-exec advisor, working a few days a month. Again, you get to pick and choose your hours to help others mainly. So, what are your reasons for giving something back, but ultimately helping them on their own journey?
Yeah, I think it's just, you've been there, you know how hard it is. And running a business is always basically a challenge between working what needs to be done to progress and your own mental health and well-being. And those two are conflict all the time. Then you've got your family, you've got your social life, and you're trying to basically get all of these things to work together. So any companies I work at non-advisory with, obviously I've got a bit of business experience now and I can talk to them about that. But probably the most important thing I do and try and do is check in on the founders or the CEO or the director's well-being. It's amazing how many people don't do that. We've got investors, advisors, and everything. So, and sometimes you just want them to ask you how you feel, and that's what I try and bring to any advisory work. There's the technical stuff that I can help on: sales, marketing, branding, culture, blah 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 blah. But I think checking in on the well-being of founders that have been on the journey I've been on is so important, because it's a lonely, tough, hard experience. And for anyone who's not done it, the only way to describe it is it's like an extreme sport. And it's absolutely brutal. And I always think entrepreneurs need to stick together. So if I can help people out, I will try.
Yeah. I mean, so in line with your brand, I noticed you're also an author, where in late 2020 you embarked on your book, So Freedom to Be Happy, the business case for happiness. Talk to us about the book and your reasons for writing this. So
there's a couple of things. The idea of the book came basically in the first few days of lockdown. And I'd always wanted to get all of our research and data into one place, but I never had the time. I'm sure there's probably people listening now saying, like, I've always thought that I want to write a book, but don't have the time, then suddenly I cannot do anything. I can't go out. And so I have this Michael Jordan quote on my phone. It's my favorite quote, which is turn every negative situation into a positive. So obviously all that stuff was going on the TV. I just couldn't watch the TV after the first or second day of it. I found it too stressful. They kept like doing all the graphics alongside the stats and all that. It was just, you know, you can probably remember it. It's horrible. And I just couldn't handle it. So I just kept looking at that quote on the phone, and I just kept thinking, how can I turn this time into a positive? Number one priority was children, spend time with my partner. That was great. I'll never regret the fact that I got to spend loads of time with my family.
Yeah.
And then I thought, from a work perspective, what can I do? Because no one was going to buy anything in those early days. Everything shut. Like, that was it. So I thought, you know what? I'll go down the end of the garden a few hours a day and just type it all up. So it was a pandemic love story, really, Mark.
Yeah. So where can people find that? If people were interested to read it, where can people find it?
It's on lots of different places, but if you go on Amazon and type Freedom to be Happy, the business case for happiness, you get it on Amazon and get it on Google. It'll be floating around. If I always say to people, Mark, if you're out of work at the moment and you want a book to read and get the science and data behind this, send me a message on LinkedIn and I will send you a copy. Because I think when you're out of work, it's the hardest period of time you're going through. It's going to hurt mentally and physically. And sometimes you get all consumed by the quest for work. You went through it yourself, Mark, in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Sometimes having something to read can help. And also because it's applicable and it will come up in your interviews. If you're a manager, this type of information is useful. And if you're not a manager, this is the type of information that's useful to learn to be a good manager. So if you are out of work at the moment, send me your address and I'll pop one in the post as a just from me. But yeah, you can find it on Amazon or wherever.
Yeah, so hopefully people take you up on that offer. So yeah, please go and read the book. But in amongst everything else, you're also a fellow podcast host. So tell us more about the Happiness and Humans podcast and the types of guests you welcome on the show.
Yeah, so for me, it's getting the fellow geeks, scientists, researchers into the area of this, because we've talked quite broadly around today around how happy employees is a good idea. When you get into the data behind it, it's fascinating. Like, it's not just a good idea, it's essential to business. But there's still a lot of CEOs that don't get it. So you need the data, the science, and the research to show people. So the podcast is called Happiness and Humans, and I created it just to showcase the research and data. So it's quite niche. I don't expect it to ever be like millions of followers, but there's lots of people that are interested in the subject of what makes people happy, and how you can apply that at work. So we've got a little gang of people that come along and contribute and listen, and probably similar for you, Mark. Podcast fascinates me because people can listen to a podcast when they're doing pretty much any activity.
Yeah.
And the messages you get, like, from random people around the world, because once it's on Spotify, it's everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it just fascinates me. Like, someone will take one thing from a guest, and that can change their life. And it's like, I'm normally in the role you are, which I think it's easier to be the guest than it is to be the host, even though people watching or listening probably think it's the other way around. But when you're the host, it's quite complicated because you're thinking about the next question, the flow, are they going on too much, like me? And it's just fascinating. Like, have you had any messages like that? It blows my mind when you get people from random places.
Yeah, well, we've had messages before, but also I talk about my own sort of personal experiences, like I've led to today about with the job situation. So, you know, showcasing your own personal stuff obviously relates to somebody else out there, like you say. So if you can actually give back something and they take away something from this episode even as well, and they go away and they think, right, I can learn from that, or, you know, it encourages them to do something about their own situation, then that's all you can really ask for. But I mean, you know, our podcast is founded upon honesty and how testing times have impacted, good or bad, from personal or professional aspects, but away from business. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about a challenging time in your life that made you who you are today?
I just think I would say mine isn't like the classic one. It's for me, it's the everyday. I just think every single day, my most important job is dad, and every single day I'm balancing how do I be a good CEO and how do I be a good dad.
Yeah.
No, it's not the big story, but I think the real heroes and heroines in life are just people. I just think it's the most important job, being a parent. And that isn't, if there's lots of people and lots of my friends who don't want to be parents, right? But whoever is a parent or looking after children, and I include teachers in that as well, it's the most important thing you can do. So for me, my struggle every day is how do I do my job and set an example that I want to set, but how do I make sure I'm there for story time? Because they're always rubbing up against each other. Like, you get invited to a dinner at like some kind of business event, and I don't go to most of them anymore because I want to read my children their storybooks. But I also know that could be negative for business. So I know it sounds a really boring struggle, but that is the struggle that I think about every day. And even when we were organising this, if you don't mind me sharing, we exchanged emails.
Yeah.
And you said you're having time off for your well-being, and that's, to me, that's the best thing that's changed in the world, is that it's acceptable. So when I go off, I turn my phone off, I put it in a cupboard, and nobody can contact me.
Yeah.
And that I do for my own mental health, well-being, happiness, but mainly for my children. So I think mine is a boring everyday struggle that I think about single mums a lot. I think about how, and there are single dads as well, but specifically single mums, how hard that must be to work and to raise children. So that's my struggle every day. It's like the balance between trying to grow a business and try and help my children grow. It's probably a bit of a boring one, but that's.
No, I think it's important to open up about those sort of things, because I don't think actually a lot of people discuss that. There's a lot of people out there that obviously are parents and business owners and stuff like that, so they have that joint kind of responsibility, if you like. But yeah, it's not something that people often really discuss. Is that kind of that fine balance, I suppose, isn't it, between looking after your business but also looking after your children. But yeah, I appreciate you opening up about that. So in terms of your kind of family setup and background, because you obviously mentioned earlier on about your parents and stuff like that, so you've learned a lot from them. But how has that relationship really impacted who you are today as well?
I just think my parents, what I love about them, I suppose, because they didn't come from anything and they had to build everything up in this country, is that they're always taught us, no matter where someone's from or what their background is, just to, I can't remember the exact words they say, it's like, just take someone as you see them. And that's always how I've lived life. That's just, obviously they've instilled that in me. So I just try and forget anything, like when I meet a new person, because I don't get too much into the HR world, we all have these unconscious biases, don't we? So you might meet someone who looks exactly like the person that bullied you at school.
Yeah.
I start thinking, I don't like that person. So just every new person I meet, I try and chuck away anything about them. Maybe the car, maybe they're driving a really expensive car, or they're driving a not really expensive car, or they look like they've not had a wash for 7 days, or they look like they wash 7 times a day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a whole raft of people out there you'll meet in life, and I just try and, as soon as I meet anyone, I try and think, I can't wait to find out more about this person.
Yeah. Just before we go into a few other sort of trivia based sort of questions, which I've started doing, just one question to sort of kind of end on really is that, do you have any regrets?
Loads of regrets. I think I've considered a lot recently whether I should have left school at 16. I I went and did A levels, then I went to university just before it got really expensive. So credit to anyone that is paying what you've got to pay now. I think it's a scandal, but that's a podcast for another day, Mark. I'm not sure I got much value. I think I had a good time, but I think if I could re-advise myself, it would be go and work in another country, or just like simple things. Like I remember a bunch of guys that I went to school with went and coached football in America when some of us went and did A levels.
Yeah.
I'd have been better off doing that rather than university. I think I'd have got more from, I don't know, working in a restaurant in another country. And again, those times are pre-Brexit, so it changes. I carry an Irish passport, so it makes it easier for me and my children to work around Europe. But I'm not sure how valuable A levels in university were for me, and I'm just not academic. And I think getting out in the world a bit earlier would have been. And I suppose the second one is, I think with the agency, when we sold it, we'd got to like that really the top tier of independent UK agencies. I'd love to know if we could have taken it into global and competed with those big global networks.
Yeah,
like we were building up a massive head of steam. They're rather than the regrets, I'd say they're things I reflect on times. But I just take every day as it comes. I don't sit there and regret, but I do reflect on them.
Yeah, no, it's the best way to be, I think. So yeah, as I mentioned, we are doing a little bit of a trivia before the end of this episode. So talk about some of the most favourite things in a very kind of quick fire round. So I'll start off with favourite food.
Favourite food. Desserts.
Dessert. So do you have a particular dessert?
I love all desserts. There's just too many, isn't there? Like apple pie and custard. Just am I allowed to pick a whole food group?
Well, I think you already have, but I think if you used to pick one, if you could go with one.
Okay, sticky toffee pudding.
Yeah, that's good shout. That favorite band or artist?
The Verve.
Yeah. Favorite TV program or film?
Oh God, yeah. Favorite TV. It's hard. It's got to be Back to the reason I'm in between is I've always felt Back to the Future 2 was the best of all the Back to the Futures, and all movies of all time. But my son and I have started rewatching all of the Back to the Future movies non-stop. Yeah, and he's convinced me that the first Back to the Future is the best Back to the Future, and I realise that my fault was I got too overexcited about the fact that we could get skateboards that are hoverboards. Yeah. I realised that Back to the Future 1 is the best Back to the Future, but I got sidetracked by the hoverboards, in summary.
Yeah. Favourite place in the world?
Harwich in Essex.
Really? Okay. Yeah, because I'm not too far from Harwich in Essex.
Where are you?
I'm in Colchester in Essex.
Yeah, so that's Matt Phelan link, isn't it?
Yeah. Favorite famous person?
Favorite famous person? I'd say Harry Kane, don't I? I'm a Tottenham fan.
Oh, you're a Tottenham fan, okay. Yeah. Do you think he'll stay, by the way?
I think he will stay for one more season, because why give Tottenham 120 million when you can get a 50 million signing up fee in 12 months' time, considering the way that he's been treated by Tottenham? Yeah. I blame him for that. So I hate to say this, but I think he's going to go to. It'd be funny if we play this back, Mark. I think he's going to go to Chelsea next summer for a big signing on fee. Okay. Yeah, it's a bold prediction. I hate to say that. But that's what I'm trying to be authentic and honest. Yeah.
Last one. So, favourite memory from your life?
It's got to be my children being born.
Yeah. So honestly, Matt, it's been a real pleasure to obviously sit down with you and go through your journey, and obviously empowering others, which I hope this episode does. So I think you'll be an inspiration to many people out there, including our listeners. So thank you for your time today. Perhaps you'd like to tell everyone where our listeners can find the Happiness Index and associated channels, obviously through your website and social media handles, and obviously the book and the podcast.
Yeah, so I think if you've got over 100 employees, go to thehappinessindex.com, have a read about the platform. If it's interesting, book a demo, have a look at it. If you're interested in myself personally, add me on LinkedIn. And yeah, if you want to listen to the podcast, go to all these places like Spotify and type in happiness and humans.
Great, excellent. Thanks again, Matt. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mark.
So that's it for this episode of People Behind Brands. If you like what you heard today, do yourself a favour, subscribe to our exclusive content now, and follow us on our social media when you search People Behind Brands podcast or at podcast PBB. Join us next time for a brand new guest as we explore more life lessons from the world of business. We'll see you soon. Ta-da!